Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Chris-Amusan. I am an online business and marketing coach, and I help coaches, course creators, service providers move up from erratic sales to having predictable and consistent income. And so if that is you, this is definitely the channel for you. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the ideal customer avatar. And you've probably heard about that. If this doesn't sound familiar to you, sit tight because you've been slacking. But if you've heard about this, you're going to learn one or two new things that you may never have heard of before. So what is the ideal customer avatar? This is different from your target audience, because I know that lots of us are familiar with target audience. The target audience is like, it's more general, but your buyer persona is more of like a fictional representation. It's like creating a whole person. This person is going to have a name, age, address, what they love to do, and all of that stuff, right? So when you build this avatar, which we're going to build together in a minute, what it does is that it really helps you define who you serve. You can't really like attract something if you've not defined it, right? If you're going to spend all your many years in business trying to attract people, then you need to know like who exactly is it that I'm trying to attract. It helps you zone in, it gives you a lot of clarity. And then what happens is you start to tailor your business to this avatar you've created. So let's say we create an avatar and we give her a name. I love the name Tasha. So everything you do it with this person in mind. When you're fine-tuning your product, you're trying to revamp your product, you're trying to elevate your product, you're thinking, will Tasha resonate with this? Does this solve Tasha's problem? When you're writing your copy for your ads, for your website, for your sales page, you're like, okay, Tasha would think of it this way. So I would write it in the words that Tasha can relate with. Your ideal customer avatar is actually a key document in your business that should be passed on to any single person who's going to work on anything in the business. I also feel the need to like reiterate this because, you know, I've gotten like some reaction when I'm working with my clients. This is usually like one of the things we work on first of all. And there's usually a bit of pushback, like when are we going to start the techie stuff, the deep stuff? But you can't build a skyscraper without a foundation. Let's not jump. We need to do this first. Another thing that your ideal customer avatar will do for you is you're now able to really attract high value customers. You know, there's just this thing when you've zoned in on your genius and you understand what you're doing, you understand who you're called to. It just gives you this boldness because you know what you're doing. So the first thing you want to do is demographics. What's this? Age, gender, education, location, interests. A bit of psychographics as well, because you're like, okay, what life stage is this person at? For example, if you're maybe doing something that's in the relationship or marital space, you're probably saying, I'm looking at someone who is ready for marriage. That's a life stage, right? Or I work with middle-aged women whose kids have left home, who are having the emptiness syndrome. So you realize that when you start to ask some key questions, you can become more specific. Now, you also want to ask yourself about their pain points, and this is so key. What pain points are they struggling with? What's currently preventing them from achieving their goals? What have they tried that hasn't worked? How much have they spent trying to solve this problem that hasn't worked out for them? All of these things, when you put this into your copy, it resonates because this person is like, oh my gosh, Kiva is reading my emails. Yes, Kiva is reading your emails because Kiva has done her homework. She's done research, she's spoken to people just like you, and she understands where your head is at. Also, you need to know their desires and aspirations, right? So when you're like writing that copy, you're letting them know that I see that you want to be here 3 months from now. I see that you want to be here by next year. But if you don't do this, you're not going to get there. And you know, when you say that, they're like, Kiva has a point, you know. So that will make them like take that next step with you, right? Now, the final thing is you want to give them a name. So like I said, give them a name. And you can have more than one avatar, but I recommend keeping it at a maximum of 3, a minimum of 1, of course. Maximum of 3 because you just don't want to be all over the place when you first start your business. Of course, as you grow and as your business maybe starts to have like multiple subsidiaries, you can have various avatars for those subsections. But when you're starting out, I think 1 or 2 is fine. And 2 is usually like a good average because sometimes you're serving a male and a female and there might be slight differences. Now, there's also one thing that's important, and it's called the negative buyer persona. This is simply like who your ideal client is not. When you put out your copy, if you are like priced at $3,000, you don't want to be saying like affordable. Because when you say affordable, you're already attracting people that are looking for stuff that is, you know, maybe not so multiple figure. And personally, $3,000 may be affordable to you, but it may not be affordable to your audience, which is why, again, you need to do your research and really speak to people and use the language that they've used to document all of these things. Do not write it in your words. When you start to write these things in your words, one of the things that could go wrong is that you start using technical terms that people cannot resonate with. And you see that when you put out your copy, your marketing, you're just like going over heads, like they don't understand what you're saying. Finally, how do you gather all this data? You need to do some research. You can't write this from your head. So I recommend getting on a call with some of your past clients. In fact, one way to do this is when you're onboarding your clients, you can include some of these questions in the form, or when you have your onboarding call, you can actually ask some of these questions. So you don't have to get on a very icky call asking questions that someone is not ready to answer, right? So you can add some of this information into the form at certain points in your client's journey with you. Another way to do this is, of course, do market research. So you can use like Hotjar, use Typeform, create a survey, and really gather all this information from people online who might be willing to give you answers. Finally, another way people do this is like putting themselves in the customer's shoes. Now, I would only recommend this if at some point you were your client. So for example, I'm trying to like help you grow your business online, right? I'm trying to help you move from inconsistent sales to predictable income. That was my address at some point. So to a large extent, I can relate because I felt that pain. I've been there, I've done that, and I know what it feels like to be here now. But the danger, again, of using this method is sometimes you don't really remember. Right now, you're boiling, you don't really have like a fresh sense of what that felt like. And when you do this, you might fall short a little bit, but it works for some people, or it may be a good place to start from, and then you can build from there. I hope you found this really helpful. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments or any extra tips that you use to gather information on your clients. And while you're doing that, don't forget to subscribe, turn on the notifications so that when I release a new video, you get notified. Cheers, see you in the next video.